A Nazi general's car slowed to a hairpin turn. The assassins had been waiting 3 months for this exact moment. May 27, 1942. Prague. The morning was warm, almost ordinary. Reinhard Heydrich, the man the regime called the Blonde Beast, the man who'd architected the machinery of genocide itself, was riding in his open-top Mercedes down a tree-lined street in the Liban district. He always took the same route, always the same time, always the same car, no bulletproof glass, no armored plating. I've read the testimony of the men who waited in that street, and what strikes me isn't their courage, it's how human they were, how afraid. But we need to rewind. To understand why 2 Czech soldiers were crouched in a doorway with a bomb and a pistol, we have to go back to the beginning of the war. Back to 1939, when Hitler's forces rolled into Czechoslovakia and crushed what little remained of Czech independence. The country was annexed, absorbed, erased from the map, and the man sent to rule over it, to squeeze it, to break it, to prepare its people for extermination, was Heydrich. He was 38 years old, tall, blonde, the physical embodiment of Nazi racial ideology, though there were whispers he had Jewish ancestry, a secret he guarded with paranoia. But his looks weren't what made him terrifying, it was what he did with power. He created the Gestapo's intelligence networks. He chaired the Wannsee Conference, where the final solution was formally organized. Heydrich didn't just follow orders, he invented the infrastructure of mass murder. By 1941, the Czech government in exile in London was desperate. Their country was vanishing. Its people were being conscripted, executed, starved. Something had to break the Nazi grip, so they sent a message back to Prague: eliminate Heydrich. It was a long shot, a suicide mission really, but it had to be done. 2 men volunteered, Jozef Gabčík, a Slovak soldier, and Karel Kulajev, a Czech paratrooper. They trained in England for months, learned explosives, firearms, dead drops. In December 1941, they parachuted into occupied Czechoslovakia with a single grenade, a pistol, and orders to kill a man the Nazis considered irreplaceable. They spent months in Prague planning, watching, learning Heydrich's routines. He was a creature of habit, arrogant enough to believe no one would dare touch him. The assassination team contacted the local resistance, built a network. They chose the hairpin turn on the street to Heydrich's country home. Narrow, slow, no escape route, perfect. Now back to that morning, the Mercedes approached. Gabčík stepped into the street with his Sten gun. He pulled the trigger. Nothing. The gun jammed. For a split second, everything hung in the balance, the entire operation about to collapse because of a mechanical failure. But Kulajev didn't hesitate. He threw the grenade. It hit the back of the car and exploded. Heydrich was wounded but alive. He stumbled from the car, bleeding, firing his pistol at the assassins as they fled. The 2 men scattered into the Prague streets, knowing the Nazis would tear the city apart looking for them. And they did. Within hours, the manhunt began. Heydrich died 8 days later, blood poisoning from the wound. The man who'd organized the deaths of millions was killed by a grenade on a Prague street. For a moment, just a moment, it seemed like resistance was possible, like even the Nazis could be stopped. But the Nazis' response was swift and absolute. They blamed the assassination on the village of Lidice, claiming it harbored the assassins. It didn't. The intelligence was false or fabricated. It didn't matter. On June 10, 1942, Nazi troops surrounded the village. Every male over 16 was executed. 173 men and boys, shot in groups, their bodies burned. The women and children were deported to Ravensbrück concentration camp. Most didn't survive. The village itself was erased, houses burned, buildings demolished, the very earth salted so nothing would grow there. It was genocide as punishment, terror as policy. And the assassins, Gabčík and Kulajev, along with 5 other resistance fighters who'd helped them, were cornered in a church crypt in Prague, surrounded by Gestapo. They fought to the last bullet. When the ammunition ran out, they took their own lives rather than be captured. I've read the accounts. The final moments were brutal, defiant. So here's the question that haunts this story. Was it worth it? Heydrich was dead, yes, but the cost was extraordinary. Lidice, the executions, the concentration camps, the ripple of vengeance that consumed thousands. Did killing 1 man justify that price? The official history says Operation Anthropoid was a success, a symbolic victory against the Nazi machine, a moment when resistance wasn't futile. But the people of Lidice paid the price, and the men who pulled the trigger died minutes later, never knowing if their sacrifice would mean anything. What's certain is this: Heydrich's death didn't stop the Holocaust. It didn't slow the Nazi war machine. It didn't save Czechoslovakia, but it did prove something. It proved that even the most powerful regimes could bleed, even their architects could fall. And that knowledge, that dangerous, expensive knowledge, circulated through the resistance movements across Europe. The men who killed Heydrich didn't live to see the end of the war. They died in a church crypt in 1942, but their names, Gabčík, Kulajev, and the others, became part of the resistance legend. They became proof that resistance was possible. And sometimes, in the darkest times, that proof is all you have. The story of Operation Anthropoid isn't really about whether one assassination was worth the cost. It's about what ordinary people will do when they have nothing left to lose. It's about the moment when resistance stops being theoretical and becomes an act of blood. And it's a reminder that history, real history, is written by people willing to die for something they believe in, even if the cost is terrible. Subscribe. Every week we uncover the true stories behind history's most dangerous moments and the people who changed everything by pulling the trigger.